Tonight on Real News, the re-election of President Barack Obama seems to be on the ropes lately. Is this a huge opening for the GOP? Essie, what do you think?
Well, Obama had some embarrassing results last night in Kentucky and Arkansas, and poll numbers seem to point to troubling times ahead. So we'll talk about what's not working for President Obama right now.
All right, that and much more on Real News from the Blaze coming up in just 60 minutes.
This is not going to be about politics. This is about principles. We're going to take it upon ourselves to be part of the solution.
We are going to restore history, restore our honor, restore his idea that character is what matters.
Let us not lose this battle because we sat down.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Well, hello, America. And welcome to the Glenn Beck Program and the network that you're building, GBTV. Thank you for being here. Please pass it on to a friend. We got a lot to do tonight. We're going to try to answer a couple of things. Where is the world heading, and how the heck do we fix it? Here's the one thing I want you to remember tonight. It ain't that tough. It's really not. It's not that hard. It's not. See where we're headed and how to fix it. Pretty easy, really. Let me show you where we're headed. Let me pick 4 stories today from the news. I'll show you what democracy looks like. That's where we're going to start. Story number 1. After 484 days of military rule and nearly 1,000 dead protester Egyptians, the Egyptians today are now voting for president. Oh, they're so excited about finally having a choice for freedom. Remember, that's what it's all about. Let's take a quick look at the 4 front runners in what could very well be the most important election in 5,000 years, because it's going to shape Egypt and the rest of the Middle East for decades to come. Let's meet our first contestant, Bachelor number 1. He's a radical Islamist from the Muslim Brotherhood who hates Israel and wants to put Egypt on an Islamic basis and apply more Islamic law. Who would have seen that one coming? And selection number 2, Bachelor number 2. Also a radical Islamist and longtime member of the Muslim Brotherhood who also hates Israel and calls them the enemy. He got booted from the Brotherhood last year because he said Christians could run for president. Oh, crazy rabbit. Tricks are for kids. Later, he walked that statement back a bit, saying, hey, anybody's free to nominate whoever you want in Egypt, you know. Quote, but Egypt can't have a president who's not an Islamist orientation. I mean, what? And then choice number 3 is Bachelor number 3. He's a former member of Mubarak's regime. And Bachelor number 4, what a choice. Another former member of Mubarak's regime. So this is great. Egypt, no matter who you choose, just remember one of these men are going to make you want to live in this state-of-the-art washer and dryer. What the hell is wrong? Look, either it's going to be a continuation of Mubarak with military rule or a radical Islamist. Hey, that's great. I'll show you what democracy looks like. Here's how bad things really are in Egypt. Israeli officials today are leaning towards supporting choice number 4. Remember that guy? Yeah. What's his best quality? Quote, he's pragmatic and he knows how expensive it would be to fight against Israel. So Israel has given up trying to find somebody who just doesn't want to destroy Israel. They're just going to settle on somebody. Can we just find somebody who's too cheap to fight us? That's what democracy looks like. Okay, so there's story number 1. Where are we headed? Story number 2. The EU continues to dangle right on the precipice of financial ruin. And the media just keeps pretending like this is a bump in the road. What? The Europe has reached a 21-month low. Today's stocks tumbled, mostly due to Greece's potential collapse, an exit from the Eurozone, and the possible, quote, out-of-control scenario coming out of Europe. That doesn't sound good. They say that's possible. That might follow. What? Really? Possible? possible. I wish I could share the media's optimism here. But everything the entire world has done in the last 4 years has merely just kicked this can down the road and made it a much, much bigger can. And I'm not sure if you noticed, but aren't the Nazis gaining power over in Europe and Greece? Oh, yeah, that's right. Here they are. Here are the Nazis. But all they're doing is beating a police officer. That's it. Okay, they're protesting again in Greece. They're beating cops with baseball bats. In just a recent anti-immigrant protest. It's going to work out well. Just so you know, let's get a little handle on this. Here's what Europe is trying to convince everybody that we're going to do. That somehow or another, see, here's Greece, okay, and the rest of Europe's on the other side of this giant pile of cash. In order to protect Spain and France and Portugal and Germany and Italy from the rest of the EU and the inevitable Greece fallout, what they're saying is we're just going to put a pile of cash here, right on the border. It'll be so big that no debt will be able to climb over that pile of cash. And that pile of cash, only $880 billion, according to experts. Oh. I'm sure you're right. I'm sure. Only $880 billion? Hey, where did I put my checkbook? I'll take 2, please. First of all, they're never going to be able to come up with $880 billion because that's not enough. That's not what they're going to do. And they can't come up with, what is it, $2 trillion? Really? $5 trillion? $10 trillion? What is it? Really? Because everybody else is broke all around the world. But let's say the IMF sends $100 trillion to Greece. And it works. And all of a sudden the Greeks are like, good, we only have to work 2 years in our entire life and we can go back to the beach. Isn't it great? Thank you, IMF. How do you stop Spain? 2 years ago, it was estimated that they need $500 million to be saved in Spain. Since then, they've racked up a little more debt, and unemployment has kind of gone up from 20 to 24%. Oh, by the way, they were also downgraded to BBB in April, given a negative outlook. Greece was just downgraded to CCC. They can't even figure how to get a conclusive election and establish a government. By the way, you know what's after CCC credit rating? Yeah, kind of a new place for the West to go to. It's called a failed state. So they're preparing for failure. Do you remember when we showed you the British foreign minister? He was drawing up plans to help British expats navigate the collapse of the euro. He admitted that a collapse was a matter of time, and indeed, we're just stalling for time in order to prepare. What were they preparing for? Thousands of expats to protect their money, find a way out and back to England because they would be trapped. I remember saying, that doesn't sound like it's on the road to recovery. We told you about this last year. British senior minister said, quote, it's in our interest that they keep playing for time because it gives us more time to prepare. They actually said that the EU is going to now impose travel restrictions to keep money in place if this thing starts to shake apart. No foreign investments would come in because their money would be trapped there. So the EU now making preparations to close down the borders in the event of a financial collapse. Watch.
Now, Britain's also prepared, it says, to close its borders and evacuate expats and holidaymakers from the affected countries if the worst was to happen. Yeah, France, Spain, Germany, they've all implemented these new border controls where they can close the border for up to 30 days. You know, just in case, maybe something happened, I don't know. Here's the translation and the truth that nobody's going to tell you. When the EU collapses, when, not if, people and their money are going to be trapped. It's over. Europe it's only a matter of time, gang. The socialist utopia doesn't work. So prepare yourself for the worst. Now, by the time the media finally admits this, it'll be way too late. Now, here's the fourth story. So we have the third of the fourth story. Next one. This third story. Facebook. Tanking. What? Just a few days ago, it was the media darling. Today, media villain. What a stunner. You're trying to tell me
that a company that makes nothing of intrinsic value, in fact, they make literally nothing, is not worth as much as you thought it was. Wow. I guess knowing, what some kid I haven't talked to since grade school, what he's having for dinner tonight, I'm sure it has some value, but not as much as everybody thinks. Something tells me it might be a little less than $116 billion. Maybe a little closer to... Even Mark Zuckerberg has sold 30 million shares. That's worth about $1.3 billion right now. And now, today, the media and banking officials believe that Facebook might become a black swan event. It might be too big to fail. There's a looming dot-com bubble, and if Facebook fails, it could collapse the economy. Really? Where were all you geniuses just last week? You were debating, is Facebook worth $100 billion or $116 billion? Let me think about this one. Facebook opened, and it was trading, and it was about $40 billion more than what the Walt Disney Company is worth. Now, let me think this through. If I go broke and I'm the Walt Disney Company, I have all kinds of buildings and media equipment and artifacts and drawings and cartoons and movies and studios and roller coasters. But if Facebook goes belly up, and that's a big if, let me tell you, I get, I have that. What, are we drunk? Are we all drinking? Hello? Stop trying to get rich quick. America, we have to change course. Last story. Where are we? We're all on the edge here because today at GBTV, we're finally expecting that call from the Oval Office and President Barack Obama. The phone is going to ring at any moment. And I know this sincerely because one of our employees, Essie Cupp, who will be on The Real News in just about 40 minutes from now, was on the receiving end of a vicious attack from the left and Hustler magazine. It is a truly disgusting Photoshop that I believe is virtual rape. It was horrific. She was targeted in their celebrity fantasy segment and derided for her conservative beliefs. And I know the president is going to call because the president will understand if I had a daughter or another daughter, she'd look an awful lot like Essie Cupp. We all know how concerned the president is with that war on women. After all, he immediately called Sandra Fluke when she was referred to as a slut. This is far worse. And Obama supporter Larry Flint even profited off of these malicious, slanderous photos. This company not only demands an apology for one of our employees, I demand that they have to remove this from the internet in perpetuity. At some point, Essie Cupp will have children, and they will look and see mommy. And there won't be a little disclaimer there. So the president must be working really super hard to find Essie's phone number and get her on the line to support her and bring words of encouragement to this young lady. Of course, come to think of it, it might take a while since Obama has a lot of conservative women to call and comfort today, like Nikki Haley, who was beaten in effigy at this union gathering. I have a question. Who does this? They're calling, hit her again. Hit her in the face this time. They're getting their jollies after seeing somebody beating another woman in the face with a baseball bat. But we really shouldn't be surprised because it's union thugs. And union thugs, we know, are now following the teachings of a guy named Saul Alinsky. Saul Alinsky is a guy who learned everything he knows from Al Capone. And you remember him. And this in The Untouchables. He was very good with a baseball bat in somebody's head as well. Now, of course, the story here that the media has, they are outraged. They are outraged at, of course, Nikki Haley. Of course. Quote, Nikki Haley tries to capitalize off of a video of union leaders smashing a piñata. How dare she point out that she's up against barbaric union thugs, and to even merely suggest it might be a good idea to throw your support behind stopping it. So where are we headed? Oh, I don't think it's that tough to figure that out. We have beaten the life out of common sense, and we have lost touch with truth and decency. You want the answer? Where are we headed? It ain't that hard. Here's what I want you to remember tonight. It isn't that tough, and neither is the solution. I teach a Sunday school class, and I was having to teach the 10 Commandments to 15-year-olds. Help me. And this Sunday I was teaching the 10 Commandments to the kids, and as I'm doing my homework for the class, I thought to myself, you know, really, the Bible could be about 20 pages because it's the same story over and over and over again, you know, and it would make it so much easier to remember. I mean, if it was only 20 pages, I could memorize the whole thing. Because here's the story, the whole story of the Bible. People are in slavery, and they cry out to God for help, and then God rescues them. And then people are like, oh, thank you. And then they're like 5 minutes later, they're like, I got to go get a hamburger and maybe wear some nice clothes and get a big car. And they get greedy and they forget. And then God's like, what just happened here? I thought we were buddies. And you're like, yeah, whatever. We don't need you, Jack. And then they get destroyed. And then they become slaves again. And they're like, ooh, that's the story over and over again. Oh, I forgot the one part. They cry out for help. At each time, somewhere in that story, in the midst of the struggle, when the people have lost their way, right before somebody goes and destroys them, there's always somebody that comes along and says, hey, you know what? Maybe, you know what I'm thinking? Maybe we should think about, oh, I don't know, the 10 Commandments. Same story over and over. I'm reading this great book, believe it or not, about dinner table topics. And one of the chapters is about the 10 Commandments. And as I'm reading this, I'm thinking, you know, this is why the left so desperately wants them out of the public square, because they're pretty bright. May I just take a quick look at some of the 10 Commandments? Okay, show me the first commandment. What is it? Don't have any other gods. Okay, so what is that really? Don't have any other gods. If you're looking at what God is trying to really say, he's saying, hey, would you do me a favor? Could you commit to me? Just commit to something. Second commandment. Hey, and I've got this one down. I have, my whole life, I've never made a graven image. Not once. I am great. Okay, so what is he saying on this one? What is he saying? He's saying, you know what I really dig? I really dig authenticity. I love that. Something genuine, like, I don't know, God. Authentic, genuine. The next one. What is that? Respect. That's respect. Can we just have a little bit of respect? Next one. Hey, what do you say we don't work on Sunday? God values rest. Okay. Next one. Parents. It's about parents. Next one. Ooh, this one's tough. Because what is God's value? He values life. Next one, adultery. Yeah, adultery. Purity. This is my favorite. Thou shalt not steal. Hey, Marxist, tell me something. How is it that you can't steal things if nobody owns anything? If everything just belongs to all of us, there's no stealing now, is there? No. What's that tell you? God loves private property. Oh boy, that stinks, doesn't it? Next one. Next one is don't bear false witness. Truth. And don't covet your neighbor. Oh. He loves the individual. Individuality. Stop worrying about what they've got. You got everything you need. Look at what you've got. Now, let me ask you something. How far are we off track? Remember I said it's not that tough. It's really not that tough to tell where we are and how to fix it. Why? Because the answer is right here. Right here. You want to know how far we are off track? Do we honor as a society commitment? When we shake somebody's hand and look them in the eye, is our word our bond? Do we commit? Let me ask you this. Do we commit to God? How many of us are really willing to say, you know what, I don't care, shoot me in the head, take all my possessions, whatever. I'm not going to change. I won't compromise because I'm committed. How many? How many? I can't even read my own right. Oh, authenticity. Tell me the things that are genuine, that are real, that are lasting. We're all hungry for it. It's all image. Respect. Respect of God. Blasphemy is crazy. Respect of ourself. Rest. How many of us actually take one day and don't work? Have you seen television lately? Do you remember? Do you remember with Mrs. Beasley and Sebastian Cabot on, what was that, Family Affair, and My Three Sons, and Leave It to Beaver? Try to find those shows today. I can tell you that I don't think we value life. We certainly don't value purity. We've got a president who's saying private property, what? That's crazy talk. Do we value the truth and individuality? Of course not. We all have to be the same. We all have to have the same. That's how bad it is. And the way to fix it is just to honor these things, to find value in all of these things. You're not going to find any of these things at Occupy Wall Street rallies. No. It is exactly the wrong track. I don't care what you call them. 10 Commandments, 10 safety tips, 10 words Glenn put up on a chalkboard. I don't really care. Really don't care. I don't care if you think it came from God or... Remember that lava rock on Star Trek where he's like, Kirk, I brought you here to pit good against evil. Remember that lava rock? Yeah, that was cool. That was a cool rock. I don't care if you think it came from the lava rock. Follow those things. Fix the values in our own life. We have to concentrate on these things as a people. As I said, it ain't that tough. It may be tough to get the whole world to do it, but as individuals, we can certainly do it. Because I think I've read this story before. What do you say? We make the changes now before the ending is a repeat. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy, the backbone of our nation. We have to encourage the entrepreneur to keep going after their dreams.
We own a commercial feed yard.
I have a children's clothing line.
I'm a video production company.
I have a construction company.
We make handmade soaps and bath and body products.
I own a single urgent care practice.
Who's having a hard time finding good, qualified, hardworking people? How many people here actually believe that instead of your taxes going down, as a small businessman, your tax is going to go up? How many people here feel like they just can't even keep up with the rules that are being made? How many people want a dime from the government? We are all we got. And if we fail as a nation. Are you sensing a change coming to this? I smell change coming in the air. Uh-oh. Our sponsor this half hour is FreedomWorks. This might be the most important summer in American history. We're at the crossroads, gang. This is it. And it's up to each of us which path we're going to take. You can leave it to the Occupy crowd or the band of political bandits in Washington to decide America's future, or you can join me and FreedomWorks and chart a course back to freedom. Leading up to Restoring Love in Dallas, we have a ton of events. None of them have been announced yet, except for this one. FreedomWorks is hosting an event called Free Pack. It's going to be on July 26, 2 days before Restoring Love at the American Airlines Arena. Free Pack is a national grassroots gathering of people just like you that is interested in restoring freedom, not just for America, but from the bottom up for the entire planet. You'll be given critical materials and training experience to allow you to effectively fight for our freedoms all over the globe. Go to freedompack.com right now. I'll be addressing the group along with Matt Kibbe and a bunch of other people who haven't really announced yet, and I think you're going to want to be there. You're not going to want to miss this. Get your tickets right now. Go to freepack.com. That's freepack.com. Get your tickets. Tell your 912 Project members and your Tea Party members, be there. Freepack.com. Go there now.
Bringing a firearm into your home is one of the most important decisions you can make. If you are considering gun ownership, CheaperThanDirt.com is here to help you make a responsible and informed choice. We understand it is a personal decision how you choose to protect your family. We offer thousands of choices of firearms, ammunition, and accessories to suit your individual needs. Be responsible, be proactive, and exercise your Second Amendment right. Find us online at CheaperThanDirt.com. That's CheaperThanDirt.com.
Hi everyone, this is Amelia from FreedomWorks, here to invite you to a very special event. Free Pack is a national gathering of Americans interested in restoring freedom. This year's event will feature speeches from Glenn Beck, Dick Armey, Matt Kibbe, and many of the biggest names in the freedom movement. So go to freepack.com today to pre-register and help restore liberty in your community and across the nation.
Mortgage lenders lied. Banks cheated and committed fraud. If you believe you're the victim of lender negligence, greed, or corruption, if your home is worth less than what you owe, if you're currently in or facing foreclosure, or if you have a sale date, 1-800-513-0934. Our job is to dramatically lower your mortgage balance or lower your interest rate to just 2% fixed for life. Take action now. When you lose your home, it will be too late. 1-800-513-0934.
If you're a diabetic and currently trying to lose weight, please stay tuned to this important message. A market trial offer is starting now for a revolutionary breakthrough in weight loss called glucosilin, and you are eligible to try it free for 30 days. Clinical studies of the key ingredient have shown this ingredient to be effective in accelerating weight loss. What's even more impressive is that it also supports healthy blood sugar metabolism at the same time. Call immediately to receive your free 30-day trial. 1-888-433-8171.
Coming up on Real News from the Blaze, Congress is playing chicken with that fiscal cliff again. Will, are they going to drag us over that cliff?
Sure looks like it. Republicans and Democrats are in a virtual Mexican standoff over spending cuts versus tax increases. And we're going to talk about what the CBO says about what exactly that means if we go over that fiscal cliff. And we're going to talk about exactly what this reveals about what Republicans and Democrats really feel about spending cuts and tax increases.
All right, all those metaphors up next on Real News from the Blaze right after Glenn at 6 o'clock.
Constantly being bombarded with stats from the left and the right, and yeah, I mean, who knows which ones are accurate. I mean, if you're just a regular person. We decided to do all the homework for you and then boil the numbers down so they make sense and you can present them to your friends in a way that your friends can digest them and they're useful. That's the idea of a new segment on this program called Statistics. It features Stu Bergier. You might recognize him from the radio program. He's our executive producer and been a head writer for me for over 10 years now. The first statistic is a look at how the administration's unemployment figures don't really add up. Watch.
President Obama has said if he couldn't get the economy turned around in 3 years, he's going to be a one-term president. But who sets the standard of whether he has turned it around? Well, how about his own economic advisors? As you've probably seen this chart before, it's what Obama predicted the unemployment rate would be with and without the passage of the stimulus. The idea was basically to scare the hell out of everybody. Pass the stimulus, or the unemployment rate could hit as high as 9%. Wow, wouldn't that have been terrible? Of course, Obama's horror movie worked, and he got a stimulus. 4 months later, the unemployment rate was higher than the highest rate he predicted, even if the stimulus never passed. Sure, it's worth pointing out that, according to Obama's own numbers, unemployment should have never gone above 8%. But that's not the most important part of this chart. Yes, 8% was as high as it was supposed to be, but that's not what it's supposed to be now. As of the first quarter of 2012, the unemployment rate should have already fallen all the way down to about 6%. That's 2.5 points less than the actual unemployment rate at the start of his re-election year. To put that in real terms, over 3.8 million people that Obama told us would have jobs by the start of 2012 did not. 3.8 million. Remember this video. Watch it again a week before the election. If our president is right, the unemployment rate should be about 5.2%, and over 5 million of you should have fancy new jobs. If that's happened, you can watch this and laugh at me. If not, perhaps we should make sure that Obama's other prediction is finally fulfilled.
If I don't have this done in 3 years, then there's going to be a one-term proposition.
I love this. Stu is here, and we're trying to arm you with facts and figures in an easy way for you to be able to share with your friends. The most striking thing is those numbers don't even tell the whole story.
No, they do not.
You have the participation rate. Explain that.
Yeah, it's dropped to a 30-year low. If the participation rate was at the rate it was when he started, unemployment would be 11%. So it's only, what, 8.1 now.
What participation rate? Explain it.
Basically, people dropping out of the workforce. They're either because they're discouraged, or they've retired, or they've gone back to school, or whatever. People are giving up.
Right. It's the percentage of people that are actually out seeking and working. Yeah. Seeking work and working.
And this is what's, I think, shocking, because people continually on the left will give you the argument, well, it would have been a lot worse had he not done what he did.
Right.
But he knew the problem. He came into office with the problem, and he designed a policy specifically to address that problem. And what's happened? His own numbers. He's designed the test of whether he succeeded or not, and he's designed the penalty if he failed. His test was 3.8 million people should have jobs right now that they don't. And he's designed the penalty, which was he shouldn't have another term. That's not, I mean, that's what you do.
It's just that easy. It is.
It's what you do with Soros or any of the other people. Mm-hmm. Use their own words. Let them set up the rules of the game and then just hold them to them. If that happens.
But it's also what I do for me personally. I say, look, hold me to this, and don't, I want you to go out and look. Go out and look. And if I'm wrong, then, go ahead. Make fun of me all you want. You don't have the power to fire me. Well, I guess you do, but that's a different story. Thanks for putting that in my head now. Statistics is available online. Share it with a friend. We'll see you again. Back on the radio tomorrow. Okay, David Barton is up next.
In 2000, the U.S. national debt was $5.6 trillion, and gold was $272 an ounce. By 2010, the U.S. debt was $13.5 trillion. Gold had risen to $1,421. Today, our government is projecting over $20 trillion of debt in the year 2016. Isn't it time You own gold? You can't control federal spending, but you can control where you put your investment dollars. Goldline has safely delivered billions of dollars in gold to its clients for over 50 years. Diversifying with gold is a smart strategy, and it's easy to get started. Call Goldline and get your free investor kit. Be sure to ask about our price guarantee program. Use your credit card for safety and convenience, and enjoy free shipping. Call Goldline now and buy gold with confidence. Get started today with Goldline.
It's an unpredictable world. Disaster can strike at any time. That's why Stove in a Can should always be part of your emergency survival plan. With power out and gas lines down, Stove in a Can cooks your food and rapidly boils water. Portable, safe, and easy to use. With an all-natural, waterproof fuel source you can store indefinitely. Say goodbye to dangerous propane, lighter fluid, and gas. Don't wait until it's too late. Stock up today and protect your family. Special bundle offers available at stoveinacan.com.
You look so beautiful, but you're about to lose everything.
You're gonna lose everything.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here.
You're gonna lose your files.
There's no warning when you lose your computer files. That's why you need Carbonite Online Backup. So whatever happens, your files are safe. Try it for free at Carbonite.com.
Hello, friend. I'm Pat Boone. Are you dreaming of an ideal retirement? Well, if you're 62 or older, there's a smart and easy way to get the money to make it happen. A reverse mortgage from my friends at Security One Lending, a national leader in reverse mortgages. They can help you turn the equity in your home into tax-free cash. Call to get this free, no-obligation information kit, which includes an educational video and the top 10 things to know about reverse mortgages. Why don't you call now?
All right, tonight we want to present some solutions to you, and we want to talk about the history of the entrepreneur and the free market in America. David Barton is here. He's founder and president of Wall Builders. And David, we have a president right now who's taking on the free market system, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. This is who we are. He's changing traditions in history right now.
And it's not a place we haven't been before, because the alternative of a free market system is a socialistic system.
Right, and that was tried even before Marx.
Oh, yeah, long time before. America got it twice. We did it with Jamestown. Total abysmal failure. They were literally digging up people out of graves to eat people because they wouldn't work. They're waiting for the government to supply them. Finally, Governor John Smith said, here's the deal. Bible says you don't work, you don't eat. You're going to do it on your own. Nobody else is going to supply you. I'm not going to supply you. The king's not going to supply you. You're going to supply yourself. Suddenly, everybody got an incentive to work. Okay. It got them out of what was called the starving time. The second was the Pilgrims. They came in and said, hey, we're all Christians. Let's take care of one another. Socialistic. I love what their governor said. He said, we tried socialism as if we were wiser than God. He said, this is what Plato and the others used to talk about. He said, when we went to a free market system where everyone provided for his own family and not for anybody else, you take care of your own family, he said, suddenly prosperity blooms.
And you really did have to take care of your own family.
You did.
Right. I mean, there was compassion and charity and everything else, but...
And you didn't have to do the same. I mean, if you're a hunter and I'm a blacksmith, I'll say, Glenn, I'll trade you a pair of hinges for 2 turkeys.
Got it.
And we could do that. We could barter all the time.
In that system, I starved to death on either side of the table.
That's right.
That's a different
story. Not a blacksmith or a hunter.
Okay, yeah,
That's
okay.
Right.
So now, let's start with the Founding Fathers. You want to start with Jefferson?
Yeah, Founding Fathers. When Jefferson comes into office as a limited government guy, in his inaugural address, he makes a really profound statement on the free market. Let me show you what the statement is that Jefferson has on the free market. This is out of his inaugural address. This is what he says. Coming? It is. I'll just read it to you. Okay. Jefferson, in his inaugural address, he says, a wise and a frugal government is one that shall restrain men from injuring one another, leave them otherwise free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and not take from the mouth of labor the bread it's earned. This is a sum of good government. So 3 things. Good government. I don't allow you to kill me. I'm going to go into business. Government's going to keep you off my back. You can't kill me. You can't steal my stuff. You can't burn down my shop. Now, other than that, it's going to leave me free to regulate my own pursuits of industry and improvement, and it's not going to take from my mouth the labor and bread that I've earned. So, free market. And he says that's the sum of good government.
That doesn't even sound anywhere close to what we're doing now.
Oh, no. See, right now we tax profits. Their position was you don't tax profits because that's an incentive for more people to work and create shops and do things. If you don't tax profits, people will be willing to get in and do something.
Well, then how do you pay for stuff?
the income comes when people start making things and producing things. It takes off. I mean, we're looking at huge deficit. Right? If we had everyone in America becoming a producer and doing stuff, we would generate enough income. We would sell enough stuff. There'd be sales tax and other things that would bring. But you don't penalize income. You don't penalize profit. Just on your pure sales tax, you take care of the income alone. And that's what Reagan saw.
Hang on just a second. I believe. Yes. Here are the cupcakes, the dancing cupcakes.
Oh, cool.
Project Cupcake.
Thank you.
These are on June 13th. We're having the National Lemonade Stand and Bake Sale Hugathon. All the things the government says you can't do.
Do we need to have these checked by health? They may be high in sodium.
No,
you know?
no, they're high in a lot of stuff. I'm breaking out and swelling.
All the good stuff. That's right.
Okay. So
I've always said anything that tastes good is good for you. So this is healthy.
Yeah, this is very healthy.
I love it.
Look, here's the thing. We have to start teaching people to be entrepreneurs again.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And the thing, I mean, you know, in the communist country, you don't get a dancing cupcake.
No. That's right.
We have to teach people. They're changing our history and our traditions.
Yeah.
And you don't hear that from Thomas Jefferson.
No.
You don't know what that is anymore.
Well, let me show you a quote from Ben Franklin. I really like this. It sums up this free market system, this entrepreneurial system. Here's what Ben Franklin said. I'll just read it to you. Ben Franklin said, a free market is the means under God of recovering and establishing the freedom of our country entire and handing it down complete to posterity. Free market allows you to recover and restore and gain your freedom, your liberty, and then you can pass it on to the next generation. So that's the best thing in our future is a free market system that is unregulated, unrestrained, wide open, allows us to compete.
Are you Barack Obama? Because you missed two words there. As you said, as you translated it?
Yeah.
Under God.
No. It's not there. It is there, though.
It is there.
It is Franklin. Franklin said it. That's right.
Under God.
Under God. That's exactly right.
So without God, it can't happen.
Well, it's interesting. We put in God we trust in our money. We don't put it in our presidential documents. We stick it on our money.
Yeah.
And the guy who gave us the free market system, Adam Smith, 1776, well, actually, God gave us free market system, but he's the first one to really write about it. Just before that, he had done a book on religion and morals, showing that you have to have religion and morals, and if you don't have that, free market's not going to work. So it is the means under God of creating prosperity and creating it for generations to come.
Okay, one more quote.
One more quote is from Thomas Jefferson. I like this because it deals with staying out of debt. It deals with making sure that if you want prosperity, you have to regulate yourself. This is what Jefferson said. He said, here it comes right here. He says, we must make our choice between economy and liberty on the one hand or profusion and servitude on the other. Now, what that means is if you are frugal and save money, you have prosperity. If you have a profusion, you spend money, you're going to be in servitude. Those two things go together. If you get into spending, you will get into debt. If you get into debt, you will be in servitude. If you are frugal and make money and save money and produce money, you're going to have prosperity. Real simple. We're in the spending mode right now, not the saving mode.
You know, I said at the beginning of the show, the opening monologue was, where are we headed and what the solution is. It ain't that hard.
Oh, it's not.
It's not.
You know, all through history, all people did was they said, you know, I see that guy doing it. I think I can make a widget that'll take care of that. And they'll make something, and it's just a bright idea they came up with. I love Samuel F.B. Morse. Samuel F.B. Morse is a painter, really famous painter. He was in Washington, D.C. in the 1830s, painting people in Washington, D.C. He gets a note, comes to him, says, your wife is really sick in Boston. Get home quick. So he heads home. By the time he gets home, not only is she dead, she's buried. I mean, he got there way too late. He says, there's got to be a faster form of communication. So he comes up with the telegraph. And all it was a need. I see a need out there. I can go serve people. I can do something. And if you'll find a need and start serving people, it'll make a huge difference.
Please go to the website at glennbeck.com and look for the lemonade and bake sale information. I want you to teach your kids how to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, right.
These are the values that we have to pass on and teach our kids, or we don't make it. Do it at glennbeck.com. Back in a minute. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, bro.
Who can take tomorrow? Who can take tomorrow? Dip it in a dream.
You're invited to GBTV's first ever bake sale, lemonade stand, and Hugathon Day. On June 13th, you can join 912 groups across the country. Be part of an American tradition filled with cakes, cookies, and Glenn. He'll be broadcasting live from Babe's Chicken Dinner in Cedar Hill, Texas.
That looks good, huh? Doesn't that look good? Oh.
RSVP by emailing bakesale@gbtv.com with your plans for the big day. June 13th, only on GBTV.
Common sense. Look, when it comes to our economic conditions right now, you can buy the party line. We're fine. We're just recovering from the biggest recession since, men used sticks as currency. Or you can maybe look at adding something to your portfolio of intrinsic value, like not sticks, but gold. I choose Goldline. The number is 800-757-GOLD. I've dealt with these people for over 10 years now. I suggest that you call them now and get the important information. Find out if buying gold or silver is right for you. 800-757-GOLD or goldline.com.
Preparation, focus, hard work. It's a personal commitment. It's what drives me. It gives me the confidence to look my opponent in the eye and say, game on. Preparing for life's future challenges is just as important. Food Insurance Emergency Food Supply gives me the same assurance that I'm ready for whatever comes my way. Preparation is everything. Order today at foodinsurance.com.
The TRS Files, True Tax Resolution Stories.
My name is Gibb, and I am not an actor. As a result of my dealings with Tax Resolution Service, my tax burden to the IRS went from more than $35,000 to zero.
If you owe the IRS over $20,000 or more in back taxes, have unfiled returns, or are under audit, call Tax Resolution Services now, 888-7804-TAX, or visit taxresolution.com/GBTV.
Is your nonstick pan a sticking nightmare? Don't live in fear. The solution is here with Organic Kitchenware, the new nonstick cookware with revolutionary green ceramic coating. Now you can saute or fry with little or no grease or fat. Foods never stick, so you never scrub. Look how with just water, burnt fudge cleans up in a breeze. Don't worry about eggs sticking to the pan. They'll slide right out. Order your 10-inch Organic fry pan right now for just $19.99. If it ever dulls or damages, we'll replace it. It's the pan that slips and slides for life. But we're still not done. Call or click right this minute and you can double your order. You get 2 Organic 10-inch fry pans with recipe books and our lifetime warranty. A whopping $220 value, all yours for $19.99. And when you call, find out about free shipping.
Call 1-800-603-7571. But hurry, we're giving away a special offer on a second Organic pan with 2 days' orders. So call 1-800-603-7571 and find out about free shipping. That's 1-800-603-7571. Call now.
The theme of tonight's show is, it ain't that hard. It's really not. We're overthinking things, and more importantly, what Michelle Obama talked about at the very beginning when they were running for election the first time, running for president, she said Barack knows he's going to have to change our traditions and the way we talk to each other and our history. And they're doing it. Whether we recognize it now or not, they're doing it. It's all happening just the way they promised. And it's not that hard to fix. We just have to promise not to go over the cliff with everyone else. We have to just remember those things that were important to us and not surrender them. You have a problem with small business. Well, then maybe somebody in this office, it used to always be called the most powerful office on the planet. Somebody in this office maybe should then talk to the next generation of entrepreneurs. That is the speech the president should be giving this week from the Oval.
3, 2.
Hello, America. Today, youth unemployment rate is at 25%. Many young Americans graduating from high school or college are returning to live at home because they can't get a job. Employers report that they are now having a hard time filling open jobs because young adults just don't have the skills they need. They report that many recent hires require significant training just to get them ready to work, just to get them to show up on time, to get them to learn from mistakes. Hey, I've never had to learn from mistakes. Oh, that Johnny, 2 + 2 is 7. Good job. Is that wrong? No, it wouldn't say wrong. Yes, it is, Johnny. Learn from your mistake. Employers now can't find a way to get people to be more productive. We have to train the new recruits to be more productive. Skills that any worker needs to know have been lost. Today's young adults don't know it. So what are we doing as a nation? What's the government's response to all this? What emergency action is being taken from offices just like this to immerse our kids in a world of work, to get them ready to participate in our economy? Create incentives for employers to set up apprenticeship programs? That's a good idea, huh? No, we're not going to do that one. I know. Force schools to focus on labor market skills. No, it's this room. It's Washington. How about we strengthen after-school programs so students can work closely with local entrepreneurs? No, again. You had me with the after-school program, but then remember it's Washington. Can't put an entrepreneur in there. We are seeing instead a different government approach, the one we should have seen coming long ago. The government is sending out armies of enforcement officers, not to force kids into school. No. Instead, to shut down lemonade stands and bake sales. Yeah. You remember when you tried to sell this in your neighborhood? I mean, how much money did you make? Kids in the summer setting out tables. We're not talking teenagers. We're not talking, 20-somethings. We're talking 6, 7, 8, 10. Trying to sell lemonade to raise money for charity or for a school trip or just because they want some extra spending money. The government shutting them down. In Massachusetts, they have banned bake sales at school during the day, and they're working on stopping those evil bake sales in the evening as well. Last time I checked, bake sales help put students in uniforms for their track team or football team. Last time I checked, bake sales help pay for textbooks or actual running of the schools. It also taught kids the value of hard work, and it brought communities together. In Appleton, Wisconsin, 9-year-old Lydia Conan and her sister Vivian, they ran a lemonade stand during a local car show. It wasn't a real big moneymaker for the two of them. In fact, they brought 2 friends in, and the 4 of them would make $100 between all 4 of them. Well, the vendors inside of the car show, they complained. They didn't want to compete with a bunch of cute little kids. That's $100 after all. So what did the city council do? They actually wasted their time on this one. They banned the kids from selling lemonade. Midway, Georgia wanted to charge Cassidy Dixon. She's 14. And Tiffany Casson, she's 12. And Skylar Roberts, he was 10. I want to charge them $50 for a permit to sell lemonade. In Coralview, Iowa, they just shut down a lemonade stand run by a 4-year-old. 4. In Hazelwood, Missouri, they banned 2 young Girl Scouts from selling Girl Scout cookies from their front yard. Why? Well, city law bans the sale of commodities. They're not selling bars of silver. They're Girl Scout cookies. So I guess now Girl Scout cookies are silver or pork bellies, rolls of copper, I could go on and on and on, but you've heard all of these stories before. We've seen them. In the same country where the lemonade stand used to be a tradition. And every time it happens, the same thing happens. There's a public outcry. We read about it in the paper or listen to it on the radio, and elected officials try to explain. The public is still upset, but in the end, the elected officials and the city managers stick to their guns and nothing ever changes. So we start to accept no lemonade stands, no bake sales, no Girl Scout cookies sold from the front yard of somebody's house, and we just move on. But I wonder how much more territory is the United States of America going to give up? I wonder What are American kids learning now about work and about entrepreneurship and the leering power of powerful offices like this one? What are we teaching our children? Unfortunately, America, here's what I fear. Our kids are learning, first of all, that if you want to make money, you need the permission from someone who sits behind a desk and has a flag behind it. They're learning to be passive. Our kids are learning, second, that if you want to make money, you need to pay powerful people first. So they're learning about coercion and bribery. Our kids are learning, third, that if you want to make money, you need to have money. You don't have $50? Well, son, come back when you do. They're also learning about oligopolies. Our kids are learning, fourth, that if you want to have a business, you better not let your neighbors or your friends see. They might call the cops. They're learning about rent-seeking and NIMBYism. Not in my backyard. Is this what we want to teach the youth of America? These are awful lessons to learn at any age. And now we're beginning to see the effects. We have a generation of young Americans who have been raised to be passive and powerless, to stand silently and mute and at the mercy of an all-powerful government. They don't even know how to work. Why are we surprised that when they graduate from school and enter the workforce, they are utterly unprepared? Why is it that when they show initiative, innovation, hard work, commitment, we've got to stop them? Look what we teach every single kid when they try. We shut down their bake sales, we shut down their lemonade stands, we shut down their Girl Scout cookie tables in their front yard. We're not even giving our kids a chance to learn how to work, how to sell, how to invent, how to dream, how to do, how to have some initiative. We actually try to drum it out of them at a young age. I'm not suggesting that we push our kids into, sweatshop lemonade stands. But shouldn't we be encouraging them to learn, to try, to have fun, to open up their minds? Give it a whirl, see what happens. But isn't that really what having a lemonade stand is? A lemonade stand's never going to put, Country Time Lemonade out of business. It's never going to spoil the environment. It's not going to be Walmart. It won't ship jobs overseas. It's fun. It's about learning. It's about trying something new. It's what our children are supposed to do. I thought about this for a while, and then I thought, I wonder maybe by putting these kids out of business, we are teaching them a lesson that they do need to know. I mean, think about this. Aren't business leaders around the country complaining about how hard it is to deal with the government these days? Aren't they afraid of the power of government litigation and regulation? The risk that one day a man in a suit with a government badge will just come in and shut you down. Didn't a government official recently brag about how he likes to crucify businesses just to set an example? So maybe shutting down these lemonade stands, crushing the kids' dreams and their spirit at the age of 4 or 6 or 8 is a good idea. Maybe, just maybe, we're preparing the kids for the real world, what America is really like. Or maybe we've really seriously lost our way. Maybe we could stop this one thing. On June 13th, I want you to join me. I want you to get out there and put out a lemonade stand with your kids. I want you to hold a bake sale, one in the daytime and maybe one in the evening. Let your kids take charge. Let your kids design it. If you can't do it yourself as a family, go and support somebody who is doing it. If you can't do it yourself and you see somebody with a Restoring Love banner over their lemonade stand, I know I drive by them every time. I want you to stop this time. Whether you drink it or not, I want you to stop and buy a glass of lemonade. It's important. We don't have to let our kids learn all the wrong lessons about what it means to be free. We are better than this, America. And so are our kids. They deserve much more. Thanks for watching. May God bless you, and may God bless the Republic. From Dallas, good night, America.
Breaking news tonight. We've got real news. This just in.
Real news from the Blaze.
Welcome, everybody, to Real News from the Blaze. As we've been warning on this show for some time now, the United States is in danger of heading off a fiscal cliff in 2013. Some call it Tax-mageddon if the federal government fails to act on a number of key policies set to expire at the end of this year. But with that deadline drawing closer, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has scuttled an attempt by the GOP to tackle one major issue, billions of dollars in automatic budget cuts, unless Senate Republicans agree to tax increases. Here to help us make sense of the latest standoff is James Otteson, professor of economics at Yeshiva University. But first, we have our Will Kane to help set this up for us.
Well, you're right, Amy. Harry Reid basically said two things today. He said, number one, I will not consider extending any of the tax cuts until after the November election, pushing that piece of the fiscal cliff into that last month of the year. He said, secondly, I will not allow any of the spending cuts. They will all go into effect. We will not avoid any of the spending cuts unless Republicans consider increasing taxes on the wealthy, thus setting up this Mexican standoff between Republicans and Democrats over the fiscal cliff. Now, unless you've been in a Rip Van Winkle type sleep for the last, 50 years, Republicans aren't very excited about any tax cuts. So thus setting up tax hikes, I'm sorry, thank you, Essie. Thus setting up this final month of the fiscal cliff, where we have these things coming to fruition. Here's a list that includes the expiration of the Bush tax cuts, a payroll tax hike that has been temporarily, we've had a payroll tax cut for what, Jim, about a year or two now in effect, 2 years in effect. More people qualifying for the alternative minimum tax, which would be a tax increase on a lot of Americans, and finally these automatic spending cuts that were put in place during the debt ceiling debacle / deal. So all that being pushed into the last month of the year, today the Congressional Budget Office said, well, what would happen? What would happen if we went over the fiscal cliff? Let's explore a few of the scenarios, the Congressional Budget Office said, and let's see what happens to the economy. So let's put up a graphic that you can take a look at home that shows what would happen to the economy under some various scenarios for how Congress handles the fiscal cliff. The first numbers you're going to see, according to the CBO, is what would happen if we extended all of the Bush tax cuts and enacted none of the spending cuts. We'll call this part of the graph no fiscal restraint. And the CBO says in the first couple months of 2012, that's the green bar, the economy would grow by 3.4%, and for the remainder of the year, the economy would grow by 5.3%. The CBO then says, well, what would happen if we did kind of a hybrid deal? What if the Bush tax cuts were extended, we didn't really enact many of the spending cuts, but the payroll tax cut expired? In that scenario, they said over the first couple months of the year, the economy would grow at 2.5%, and then for the rest of the year, it would grow at 1.7%. And then finally, the CBO said, what if it happened? What if we went over the fiscal cliff? What if the Bush tax cuts expired? What if all the spending cuts went into place? Well, they said this is what the economy would look like. In the first couple months of the year, that's the orange bar, the economy would contract at 1.3%, qualifying, according to most economists, as a recession, and then grow over the remainder of the year at 2.3%, which sounds pretty bad when you're analyzing what would happen with the economy. We're talking about a recession here. Now, here's the kicker. Under that fiscal cliff scenario, the deficit would be reduced by $500 billion, thus setting up another standoff, another set of competing values in which I'm going to turn to you, Jim, on this point. If we're going to knock $500 billion off of the deficit by doing nothing, is that a bad thing?
No, that's a good thing. Look, first
so
of all,
we should not care about going over the fiscal cliff.
We should care, but I'd like to dispute, or at least raise a question about whether this is really a fiscal cliff, because even on the last third of your graph there, we're still growing at 2.3% over the entire period, over all 4 quarters. That's not that bad. I mean, we have to consider what's the alternative. Remember that in 2011, we added $1.5 trillion to our national debt. $1.5 trillion, that's a lot of money. I mean, pretty soon you start adding $1 trillion here and $1 trillion, that turns out to be actual money. At some point, there's going to be a reckoning. This is not a fiscal cliff yet. This is just a fiscal slow down the pace a bit in advance of what could very well become a cliff.
Okay, so the two values we have competing with each other is a potential recession, which you recognize. You're saying, hey, big deal, but it is a recession at some point.
It's a real recession. It would be a real loss. There's no question about it. But the issue is compared to what? So not compared to no debt and unlimited growth, because that's not on the table. What's on the table is what are we going to do about the actual deficits and the total debt that we have.
So it's a recession versus a potential debt crisis.
Just a little bit further down the road.
A little bit further.
How far down the road, though? Is it enough to actually get the political will to do it now? Because it looks like both sides are saying, we can wait on this.
Well, they're hoping they can wait on this. I mean, it's only a couple of months until the election. It's a few months until the election.
Well, actually, Boehner does not want to wait. Boehner actually wants to address the debt ceiling now, both for political reasons and I assume for economic reasons. I just want to make that clarification.
Democrats don't want to address it.
Yeah.
I thought, when you say wait on this, are you talking about essentially taking on the mantle of fiscal responsibility, or are you talking about politically doing, taking this legislation?
Yeah, I meant more broadly people actually being willing to tackle entitlements, which they're not willing to do. I mean,
so
if you're talking about sort of in the micro sense.
Point, you're right. Lord, make me chaste, but just not yet. And now we're asking Jim, when is yet?
Nobody is going, correct me if you think this is wrong, nobody's going to do anything right now that's going to look unpopular, regardless of what the numbers say, what the CBO budget projections are.
I hope you're wrong about that, but you might not be wrong.
I'm the cynic at this table, so.
Fair enough. I mean, it's very difficult to say. If you say, well, when exactly is the real fiscal Armageddon going to happen? Who knows? It's very difficult to know. And the reason it's difficult to know is because we are in literally unprecedented, uncharted territory. The United States, in the history of the United States, has produced more wealth than any other country in the history of the world has ever produced. At the same time, we have now produced more debt than any other country in the history of the world. So there is nothing else to compare it to. Now, the rest of the world and many Americans assume we're going to figure something out. We are extraordinarily productive workers. We have an extraordinarily productive economy. Pretty soon, we're just going to pay that off. Now, why is it that all of these international entities, why does China keep buying our debt? Well, I mean, is it going to happen at some point? They're going to think, I'm not so sure that's such a good buy anymore. Yes, it will happen. The question is when, and we just can't know.
So I'm sorry, Amy, so you're dictator, Jim. We just made you dictator of the United States. It sounds to me like, looking at your opinions in the Republican Party, you tell them the proper course of action is do nothing. Allow the tax cuts to expire. Allow the spending cuts to come in place. Get the deficit down.
I mean, if you're asking for a political strategy or what makes economic and fiscal sense.
Economic, I'm asking you.
Economic sense is, yeah, we have to do something. At some point, we're going to have to be adults in the room and look at the fact that we've been spending way beyond our means, not a little bit, way beyond our means. I mean, right now, at the moment, we're about to go over $16 trillion in total national debt. That's greater than 100% of gross domestic product of the United States.
But politically, not
politically,
so much.
It's different. Well, now, I mean, I'm not a political strategist, so I can only speculate. But I think that there might be some points to be had by saying, well, we can't really come to an agreement with the Democrats can't come to an agreement with the Republicans. Oh, no, we're forced into making these decisions that we didn't want to have to make. I mean, at some point, these decisions are going to have to be made. But if there's an automatic mechanism, which is effectively what we have now.
It's not automatic. And what does automatic really mean? Isn't there a way that they could just through parliamentary procedure
find? Automatic.
Yes. No, I know, but can't they change automatic? I mean, can't they repeal it?
But what I'm trying to be clear is Jim's saying.
But can't you repeal that legislation? You repeal other legislation. I mean, we've been able to do all sorts.
Jim is suggesting the automatic outcome is a good one.
But let me ask a different economic question here. What you seem to be advocating is something akin to the Greek austerity plan, which involved raising taxes and drastically cutting government spending. We saw the political fallout, but even conservatives in Greece say that the economic fallout was a disaster for Greece. So my question to you is, Is there a pro-growth strategy that Republicans can advocate cutting taxes, growing the economy, and tackling entitlement reform, which is what they say is really the driver of our debt?
Yeah, I think there is, but they're going to have to be serious about it. So they're going to have to hit the three third rails: Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, because those are the things that are really going to push us off the entitlement cliff. And until we get serious about doing something about that, the tinkering on the edges of the rest of even these automatic cuts are really not going to make much of a difference even a couple of years down the road.
I think it's also safe to say that in an election year, it's just not going to happen. You may have a couple of Republicans out there being strong, like a Paul Ryan, for example, like a Rand Paul, people who are willing to get out and say something needs to be done about this. But Republicans who are facing re-election may not necessarily want to run on that platform. The same way that a lot of moderate Democrats don't want to run on a platform of having raised taxes.
Right.
That was really convenient with what Harry Reid did. He sort of took them out of the equation so that they didn't have to be responsible on record for having raised taxes.
It seems to me the pro-growth strategy would be, Amy, and the one I would advocate for if I were dictator, is put that long-term plan into place. Address Medicare, address Social Security, do that. Also, extend the Bush tax cuts, make tax cuts lower. But don't put in place drastic cuts in the short term. The economy can't handle that in the short term.
Spending cuts you're talking about.
I'm sorry, spending cuts in the short term. As we all know at the table, the serious issue is the entitlements. That's the long-term problem. Deal with that. But I do hear something different from you today. I hear start the cutting now. Let the fiscal cliff, let's just fly over that.
I'm scared that walks Republicans into the buzzsaw that Democrats want them to walk into here. I think that's the game. That's the game. I know. Yeah. We're talking numbers, and the numbers are clear. But even with the numbers, Professor, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't really get that bad. The entitlements actually in 10 years is when it starts to really, I believe this is when Paul Ryan sat down across from a committee and looked at this, but it was 10 years out that it gets absolutely out of control in terms of the spending. Is that right?
Well, I mean, it's hard to know. So we've already now passed 100% of GDP, which this is something we've never done since World War II. We've never been that high.
And
never.
The CBO underestimated Obamacare by a factor of 2, right? Wasn't it twice as expensive?
Well,
as they thought
I mean,
it would be?
I want to be fair to the CBO. Those are they crunch the numbers well, but they can only garbage in, garbage out.
Well, that's right.
They have to go on
the case of Obamacare,
the assumptions that they're given by Congress.
It ended up being twice as much as they originally projected.
Yeah,
right?
and it will probably be more than just twice as much than the original.
I think it's really interesting that Obama was at the Air Force Academy today at their commencement talking about our economic prowess in the world and how the world still views us as economically strong. And listening to you talk about how unprecedented this scenario is, I find that to be a little unconvincing. What do you guys think politically?
Well, we're still number one.
Okay, Buck.
Economically, no, we are still. No, hold on. We are still the strongest country in the world economically. Let's not get too crazy.
But China's on track to become number one
Okay,
in 2014.
right.
Yeah,
we're still winning the race, though.
I mean, when you get downgraded by S&P, and I think
all agree about the bad signs.
we are a little less intimidating economically than we were maybe 4 years ago. I think we can all agree on that, even after a 9/11 recovery that was stagnant. We've suffered some over the past 4 years from these economic policies all over the world. And I'm just wondering politically why you all think, and I'll exempt you since you're not a political strategist, why you all think Obama is sort of sounding that bell right now in the face of all of these numbers.
The strong economy bill? Mm-hmm. I think he feels like if he doesn't at least make that case, he just can't win.
Like the Costanza.
Even if if he doesn't believe what he's saying. Exactly. Even if the numbers don't support it, whatever the case may be, because they always can push back against. We were faced with catastrophe. Yeah. The world was going to end until Obama came in and saved the world. And if that's what you're posing yourself
against,
against,
with a straight face, our economy is incredibly strong, and the world respects us. I think that's a really interesting
We still produce an enormous amount of wealth. We are a highly productive economy.
Sure.
But at the same time, we are generating an enormous amount of debt.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can think of it, if you think of a household in which the total household income is about $100,000, and imagine they have a credit card with $100,000 in debt on it. Mm-hmm. Well, can they continue to get to raise the income all the time? Maybe. But at some point, they're going to stop giving those credit cards, and at some point, a credit card issuer is going to say, we want that money back.
Right. Sure. But they
when
do
is that
get a very
happen?
nice kitchen remodel on that. All right, Jim, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks.
The president's re-election campaign hasn't exactly gotten off to the smoothest of starts, a fact that many in the GOP excitedly observe as we look toward November. But is it just a bit too early for such campaign confidence? That discussion is coming up after the break.
Hi FreedomWorks here to invite you to a very special event. Free Pack is a national gathering of Americans interested in restoring freedom. This year's event will feature speeches from Glenn Beck, Dick Armey, Matt Kibbe, and many of the biggest names in the freedom movement. So go to freepack.com today to pre-register and help restore liberty in your community and across the nation.
Hello, friend. I'm Pat Boone. Are you dreaming of an ideal retirement? Well, if you're 62 or older, there's a smart and easy way to get the money to make it happen. A reverse mortgage from my friends at Security One Lending, a national leader in reverse mortgages. They can help you turn the equity in your home into tax-free cash. Call to get this free, no-obligation information kit, which includes an educational video and the top 10 things to know about reverse mortgages. Why don't you call now?
Stop switching back and forth between drill bits and driver heads.
Bo Ryle's here for the halftime drill driver, the innovative new way to drill, flip, and drive in only 5 seconds. You'll never have to change a bit in the middle of a job again. And you can go from drilling to driving, Phillips to flat, any combination for any task. The breakthrough, our patent-pending swivel head that flips and locks, giving you precision performance from drilling to driving in seconds. You get the halftime drill driver for only $19.95. I'll even include 4 Phillips heads, 4 flat, and 4 drill bits, no charge. Call now and receive this durable carry case free. Call or click right this minute and get a second complete set free. Just pay separate processing and handling. You get it all for the low, low price of just $19.95.
To order halftime drill driver for $19.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-651-0874 or log on to gethalftime.com.
Welcome back, everybody. President Barack Obama appears to have run into some headwinds since kicking off his re-election campaign earlier this month. The less than stellar launch was capped off by a pair of embarrassing showings in yesterday's Democratic primary contests. And yet another poll shows that the momentum may firmly be behind his challenger, Mitt Romney. Well, SC, we turn to you to understand the politics of what's going on. Can Obama put together his Humpty Dumpty coalition from 2008, or what does Mitt Romney have to do?
Well, we're going to take a look quickly at a bunch of numbers and parse some polls, which caveat, polls only project so far out into the future. So please do not accuse us of making a mountain out of a molehill. We are looking at this as a snapshot in time and gauging these poll results against a strategy that Obama's been implementing and asking, is it working? Last night, as you mentioned, in Kentucky, Obama won the state primary there, the Democratic primary, 58%, but Democrats who were uncommitted essentially voted for anyone else by 42%, or saying they hadn't yet decided, they weren't sure about Barack Obama, could not commit to him. That doesn't look great. Granted, this is a red state, but in primaries, you expect Democrats to come out hard for their guy, and they didn't. They were pretty much split. This happened again in Arkansas last night in the Democratic primary, where Barack Obama beat John Wolf 59-42. This is just some guy who's essentially running for president in the state of Arkansas. And then, of course, we all remember that a convicted felon gave Obama a run for his money in West Virginia. So it's really just the latest news in, a few months that have pointed out how rocky this campaign has been. Despite poll after poll showing that voters do not really want to talk about income inequality, that has not stopped Obama from rolling out this attack, first on private equity, then on Bain, then on Mitt Romney at Bain, as Will talked about last night. And I don't know that it's been all that effective. And in fact, a number of Democrats have come out against this strategy of attacking essentially capitalism and private equity and Mitt Romney by proxy. And I think we have some tape of that.
Bain Capital's responsibility was not to create 100,000 jobs or some other number. It was to make profits for its investors, most of whom were pension funds, endowments, and foundations. And it did it superbly well, acting within the rules, acting very responsibly, and was a leading firm.
I'm not about to sit here and indict private equity. To me, it's just this, we're getting to a ridiculous point in America, especially that I know I live in a state where pension funds, unions, and other people are investing in companies like Bain Capital. If you look at the totality of Bain Capital's record, they've done a lot to support businesses, to grow businesses.
I agree with them. Private equity is not a bad thing. Matter of fact, private equity is a good thing in many, many instances.
Yeah, that was Steve Ratner, Mayor Cory Booker of Newark, and Hal Ford Jr. And in addition to them, Ed Rendell, former governor of Pennsylvania, Deval Patrick, current governor of Massachusetts, and Alabama former Congressman Arthur Davis also came out. Here's what Art Davis had to say in Politico. He said, the Obama camp looks ominously like a cult of personality that tolerates no dissent, and the reflection the re-election campaign, just doubled down on the European leftist notion that business is fair only when it operates in a sanitized, risk-free manner. I mean, if these are your surrogates, who needs enemies, right? And of course, we all know the Obama administration has pushed back or sort of tried to corral a lot of this dissent to some success in some cases and not otherwise. Sort of relatedly, Obama in Florida, which we know is a key swing state, is down. Mitt Romney leads him there 47 to 41%. And the GOP is getting pumped up about all of this. The GOP, I think, sees an opening here. The question I have for you all is, will Mitt Romney make the most of all of these opportunities? I've said from day one, 2 years ago, which is when this campaign really started, that the economic climate was going to be so ripe for Republicans to take this over, virtually whoever ended up being the nominee, but that we are incredibly capable of making mistakes as Republicans. We've done it before. So what do you think? Are we going to capitalize on these conditions? Are these polls proof that Obama's strategies aren't working?
Well, can I ask you, do you think that Mitt Romney has to? Or does he just need to be the not scary conservative, slow and steady, and just kind of keep marching towards November, that this is really a referendum on Obama?
Can I poach Amy's question?
Sure.
I think that we haven't seen what Barack Obama is actually going to be playing in terms of his cards yet. I don't think we've seen what the strategy really is. So I think it's very hard to say. To look at just the Romney side of it ignores the fact that there's going to be all sorts of things that come out this summer. There's going to be new sloganeering. You're going to see. Look at the stories.
I poach bugs?
I was in the middle of a premise which was unfinished.
But is it a referendum on Obama in November, or?
Yes, it's a referendum on Obama to a degree, but I think that Obama is going to change the perception of that referendum between now and then. And I don't even think we've seen the beginning of the Obama campaign.
A lot's going to change.
No, but I mean, Obama specifically is waiting.
At his word, and he has said in recent speeches, as recent as 2 days ago, this is the campaign issue. Bain. He has said that. I'm taking him at his word, and I'm taking his surrogates in Joe Biden at their word that this is his campaign strategy for now.
And
I'm wondering if it's working.
I disagree with you as well, because, and I must admit this might reflect a little bit of wishful thinking, but I think this is the card he's ready to play. And I think your question, the implication of your question is right on par. That I don't know that Mitt Romney has to do anything. We criticized Mitt Romney last night. Can he take up this mantle of capitalism? Can he take this fight? If this is Obama's strategy, is chock full of shooting yourself in the foot.
This is a strategy. This is a strategy today, this week. It will be different in 2 weeks.
Hold on. This is a self-destructive strategy that I'm not sure Mitt Romney needs to play that much offense.
Well, I think Mitt Romney already is doing some great stuff, too. I heard a speech he recently gave with respect to education, and he really, he expressed himself in a way I hadn't heard him before with respect to vouchers and opportunities. So I think just in terms of his rhetoric and his ability to galvanize a crowd and get people excited, I think he has made great strides in that area.
Well, he still needs to explain, and this is the hole in his argument there, and I also liked that speech, but he still needs to explain how he's going to pay for all of his ideas. His ideas are fine, but this leaves him open to criticism. Okay, Mr. Fix-It. Okay, private business guy. how do you fund this? How do you pay for this? He's still going to make that case.
I think this has also been a testing ground for the Obama administration, though. All of these things, the war on women, all of this stuff is them testing how the public has received this, so that when they do come out with their big strategy and they unveil it, they're going to know what's working. The problem is none of it's working.
No one will remember
none of it's rollout.
Yes, nobody.
The trial balloon, trial balloon.
No one will remember in a month the Bain thing. And we've already talked about this. The Bain thing has gone up and down already. They've moved away from it. They've moved back to it.
Yeah.
They've been changing the Bain strategy. So I think that as this thing plays out, there'll come a point where they say, look, we're not getting a lot of traction here. They will just shift because they assume the public's attention is able to be shifted that easily.
One part of what I think is very clearly going to be their overall strategy.
Well, the class warfare strategy
which is us versus them.
It's one part
99%, 1%.
Okay, well, I mean, that is, I think, probably the strategy.
Campaign.
But I think that there'll be more things they add into that have
not all,
resonance with
not
his,
all
with
under
his
their
base
control.
than Bain.
Right. So
Not all
may
of
I
which
ask?
under their control. The Occupy part of this is not necessarily under their control and will be central to the message.
Right. So may I ask this: that what are Obama's options at this point? Since he's not running on Obamacare, he's not running on the stimulus. Does he have to run a highly negative campaign against Mitt Romney? And if so, what has he got? I mean, what we've heard so far is Romney is a greedy, ruthless capitalist, that he was a high school bully, that he killed his dog, and that he's an elitist and out of touch.
And a flip-flopper. They say he's a flip-flopper.
And a flip-flopper.
So
What does
strange
Obama
to me.
have in his quiver?
It's so strange to me that they have taken a man who is, by all accounts, a pillar of the community, a family man with a skeletonless closet, and tried to go with the character attack.
And he's wildly successful on top of all this.
Right. It's unimaginable to me, and kind of a really weird insight into the Democratic or liberal mindset that this is where they're going to go. We'll get him on the dog. We'll make him look like a bully.
Right.
I mean, actually, if you're taking an honest look at Romney's record, whether as governor or in the private sector, there's plenty there. There's plenty to look at and to go after.
I think you hit on an interesting point here, because I would think he's more vulnerable as Romney the politician. I would have expected more hits on that from the Democrats.
And he knows it.
And then
it's why he's not running as Romney the governor.
Right.
He
But they're
it.
going into Bain, which I think is his strength. And I think they're also losing that argument. I think that Bain is looking better and better as the days go by, which I also think means that they're going to abandon this at some point and say, well, forget about that. There's the war on women.
Well, here's the rub in that, right? So I think as conservatives, we all lamented the fact we just nominated this moderate governor from the liberal state of Massachusetts who championed health care reform.
Right.
But it also inoculates him from the attacks on the left about what he actually did as governor of Massachusetts. So what's different about that than Barack Obama can be the argument can be made? They can't go attack health care reform in Massachusetts because that's kind of what they did.
But they are somehow. I mean, I see what you're saying. If they were principled, maybe they wouldn't. But they're saying that health care in Massachusetts. I mean, how can you oppose Obamacare if you're voting for a guy that thought that was a good idea in Massachusetts? Right?
Well, yeah, but
I'm saying
they can't oppose the policy. They
Right.
can't undermine the policy because it was the template for what he actually did.
So they can't
all they can do
criticize
is
that
co-opt
record.
it. All they can do is
but they're
co-opt it and say,
co-opting
thank
it.
you, Mitt Romney, for agreeing with us.
Right.
Jedediah, let me ask you this.
That card worked in the primary, not
Right.
The Washington Post ABC News poll came out on Tuesday and showed a very wide enthusiasm gap, however, remains. That 51% of people who intend to vote for Obama said that they were very enthusiastic to do that. For Mitt Romney, his voters, less than half said that they were very enthusiastic. So my question to you is, for Mitt Romney, is this enthusiasm gap going to be an obstacle for him, or does he just have to really gin up anti-Obama enthusiasm?
I don't think it's going to be a problem for him. I think you're going to see those numbers rise, and I think you're going to see the numbers for Obama probably fall. I do think he's going to have a tight grip on the youth, Barack Obama. I think he's going to have a tight grip on women, even though I can't understand it for the life of me. I think there's going to be certain segments of the population, the under $50,000 a year bracket, he always sort of snags for obvious reasons to me. But I think that I think Mitt Romney's on the rise in terms of enthusiasm. I think the more that he rolls out these messages focused on jobs and the economy and stays away from all the other nonsense and keeps that tunnel vision for really what everyone's focus is going to be, I think he stands to gain.
Just a quick prediction. I think at some point we'll see that there'll be a day when we say, how did Barack Obama seize the narrative again and make things look as good as they look right now? That day will come. I don't know when it will be.
Tomorrow.
Between now and Election Day, we'll be like, how did this happen?
It
Anyway.
just changed so quickly.
Just follow the winding trail to November. Check out The Blaze and weigh in on tonight's top 3 stories. We'll have the results when we come back.
Food independence, emergency preparedness, self-reliance. MyPatriotSupply.com. Get our Survival Seed Vault and feed your family from your own garden for just $37.95. Our non-hybrid heirloom seeds are genuinely American, just like you. Your survival needs and survival seeds are at mypatriotsupply.com. mypatriotsupply.com. Self-reliance. mypatriotsupply.com.
Tatler reusable canning lids. Family owned since 1976. That's right, Tatler reusable canning lids. Yes, reusable with a lifetime guarantee. Made in America, BPA free. Tatler reusable canning lids. Because those who can, do. Get rid of the disposable lid. Go to reusablecanninglids.com. Tatler reusable canning lids.
It started with restoring honor.
I have a new dream.
Then, restoring courage.
That spirit lives within each and every one of us.
Now, it's time to restore love. Dallas, Texas, July 28th.
It's your chance to vote on the most popular news of the day as covered by theblaze.com. The site's editor-in-chief joins us tonight from GBTV headquarters in Dallas, Texas. Hey, Scott. Howdy.
Hi, Amy. I'm right here in the Dream Lab, so I'm full of all kinds of ideas. A lot going on here on the Blaze today, and let me get right to it. The number 3 and number 4 story have been like 1 or 2 votes apart, so I'm just checking right now. And the number 3 story at this second is. It's not the plastic surgery mom who walked off of Anderson Cooper. She just dipped to 4th. But number 3, a pretty impressive stunt. A guy in England jumps out of a helicopter. He's got one of those wingsuits on. No parachute. He lands on cardboard boxes. It is remarkable to see, and lots of people are clicking on it. Number 2 story on the Blaze right now. In all the debate over gay marriage, a 16-year-old girl from North Carolina put a YouTube video up kind of sharing her views about why she thinks the direction on gay marriage is wrong. Well, the outpouring that she has received, as you might expect, has been pretty intense. The threats are awful, and she went on television today to talk about what she's gone through, and a lot of people are checking out both her original post and her interview about the ordeal that she's been through. Number 1 story on the site today, as you might expect, is the awful situation involving SE Cup and Hustler magazine and the just vile Photoshop that they put up in some sort of mockery. And obviously SE went on with Glenn Beck this morning to talk about it. Our post kind of goes through some of those details. A lot of outpouring of outrage at Hustler and sympathy for SE coming out. We did contact, took us all day of pounding the Hustler magazine offices, but we did get a response from Larry Flint, who, as you might imagine, is not apologizing. In fact, is defending this as satire. And, of course, he's citing the big SCOTUS decision. But I don't know that we're going to see any change of heart on Hustler anytime soon, unfortunately.
Well, and Scott, I just want to take this opportunity to thank my family here at Glenn Beck and Mercury and Real News and GBTV for being so supportive and wonderful and coming out and defending against this. And that's just been so lovely. As you can imagine, this is not easy or fun. And I also want to thank all of our fans who have just, lit up Twitter with I stand with SE Cup hashtags. I'm flattered, humbled. I appreciate it. Even if I don't respond directly to you, I hear you. I see your emails and your tweets, and I appreciate them. So thank you.
Indeed, I said to another website today that was writing about this, I said, well, you know, Essie pretty much embodies both what is feminine and fierce. And I'm not sure you want to tangle with Essie Cup, and I think the Hustler will probably come to regret their decision.
We'll see.
If you want to take something just as another outrage, just to distract us from the awfulness of that one, my last story and my story to boost today comes from Cleveland, where a guy saw a panhandler. Sign just said, "Love Jesus, please help." And the guy himself had a brother who's paralyzed. He likes to help people out. He reached out of his car to hand the panhandler a couple dollars. The dollars just dropped to the ground at first, and the panhandler picked them up. Cop comes up and writes the guy a ticket for littering. Gave a ticket to the Good Samaritan. That actually happened. Story on the Blaze.
And unbelievable.
Yes, I know.
Crazy. All right, Scott. Well, thanks for bringing those stories
to
us. Okay. Happy dreams. Election day arrives in Egypt, the first in 5,000 years. We'll have the update and the consequences up next.
Preparation, focus, hard work. It's a personal commitment. It's what drives me. It gives me the confidence to look my opponent in the eye and say, game on. Preparing for life's future challenges is just as important. Food Insurance Emergency Food Supply gives me the same assurance that I'm ready for whatever comes my way. Preparation is everything. Order today at foodinsurance.com.
The TRS Files, True Tax Resolution Stories.
My name is Gibb, and I am not an actor. As a result of my dealings with Tax Resolution Service, my tax burden to the IRS went from more than $35,000 to zero.
If you owe the IRS over $20,000 or more in back taxes, have unfiled returns, or are under audit, call Tax Resolution Services now, 888-7804-TAX, or visit taxresolution.com/GBTV.
Okay, so has anybody actually started saving for college yet?
Oh, not me.
No, you got time.
Oh, no, we actually started.
You have?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. We figure you start saving a little now, or you'll borrow a lot later on.
Yeah, but how did you even know where to start?
Oh, I found out about the Gerber Life College Plan.
Call now for free information on the Gerber Life College Plan. It's easy.
It's pretty much worry-free.
Well, how could it be worry-free? What if something happens with the stock market?
No matter what happens, we get guaranteed safe growth.
So when she's ready for college, the money will be there.
And it doesn't take a lot of money to get started.
For as little as $10 a week, you can start saving for college and get guaranteed growth. Just call now.
Oh, it's a life insurance policy, too.
Oh, that's different.
And if she decides not to go to college, there's no penalty, so she can use the money for anything.
We've got to get started.
Yes, we do, because you're going to college.
Call 1-800-892-3073 for your free information. That's 1-800-892-3073.
The first round of the historic presidential elections in Egypt is in the books, with the second and final round taking place tomorrow. The stakes couldn't be higher. For Egyptians, it's their first chance to cast a vote in an election that hasn't been predetermined. And for Israel, it's the prospect for war on another border, as most of the candidates have called for wiping out the peace treaty between the two countries. And for the United States, Egypt's presidential election will help determine our role in the Middle East. Will we serve as a leader or simply a bystander to radical change? Buck, what happened yesterday?
Well, we should first get into the nuts and bolts of the election, and then we'll get into why we care. So if we pull this up, you can see that you've got 50 million people eligible to vote in Egypt. It looks like turnout is pretty good from what they've seen so far. Now, military can't vote. That's important because the military are considered sort of stewards of this being a free and fair process. Vote is today and tomorrow. Important point here is that unless somebody gets more than 50% of the vote, there will be a runoff next month. So really, this is the first of two rounds because nobody's expected to get that much. Of the 13 candidates, remember those are predetermined. A lot of candidates were kicked off the ballot for various reasons, including Muslim Brotherhood candidate Khalat al-Shatar, who was kicked off for having a previous criminal record, even though that was expunged. The final results will be due on June 21st. So at that point, we'll have a sense of who the president is, and he will take office before July 1st under the existing rules. So that's what we're seeing right now. And one of the major issues this brings up is you've got two candidates of the four who are really in this so far, who are basically old regime guys. Some people are even calling them the counter-revolution candidates. You have Amr Moussa, who is the former foreign minister, and Ahmed Shafiq, who is actually the prime minister under Mubarak, and got some rotten food thrown at his convoy today because there's some ill will towards him from certain segments of the population. And then on the Muslim Brotherhood side, you have one official Muslim Brotherhood candidate, Mohammed Mursi, and then you also have this guy, Abul Fatu, who was in the Muslim Brotherhood, left the Muslim Brotherhood to run for president because the Brotherhood said, we don't want to have a presidential candidate, which of course they have since changed their mind on. And this guy, Fatu, is actually running as a liberal Islamist. Pretty interesting. He's promising protections for Christians, for minorities within that country. And there were women voting today, by the way, just to throw that in there as well. And so you have these four candidates, all of them sort of vying. But what we're seeing right now only gives us a sense of what's going to come because there'll be a second round coming up here. And you can see right here some of the voting in progress. But, you know, I want to bring in Eric Traeger. He's an Ira Weiner Fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy and an Egypt expert. Eric, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Eric, I want to get into this right away. People are talking a lot about the military's role in this as sort of stewards of the new free and fair democratic Egypt. What does that really mean in this context? Does that just mean that they're supposed to keep the factions from going after each other? And if you could also throw in there, are there any concerns the military may be influencing this process unduly? What do you think?
Well, there are a lot of concerns that that's possible. You know, the truth is that we really have no way of knowing whether this election is legit or whether there's forgery taking place. And the reason for that is because the forgery, if it's happening, is not likely to happen at the polling places itself. It will happen as the ballots are being transported from one location to the other in the process of counting. So we have no way of knowing. The key question is whether Egyptians think it's credible. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood has been alleging since March, when it announced that it would run a candidate, that the SCAF, that's the military junta, that the military junta would forge the elections. And my expectation is that if the Brotherhood candidate doesn't win, or if an Islamist doesn't win probably, the Brotherhood will claim forgery. So that's really, I think, the biggest problem here, that you'll have elections and a large segment of the body politic will not accept the results.
Eric, that's obviously a pretty bad scenario. Let me ask you, do you think there's any possibility, obviously Egypt, the 1952 free officer coup there, Nasser was one of those officers. Do you have any concerns at all that the military may decide to just push back indefinitely the results of the final election? I mean, is that something that, I know it's not likely, but do you see that on the table at all here?
I wouldn't expect that. I think it's definitely something to look for. But, you know, the military has been pretty good about holding elections on schedule. Even despite mass protests in November, they held the parliamentary elections on time. They're holding these on time as scheduled. What I think you're going to have is not that the military will stop holding elections or not hand over power. More likely, the military is going to retain autonomy through a new constitution, maybe a constitutional declaration. The second thing we have to remember is the military holds two cards. One is the weapons. The second thing that they hold is about 15 to 40% of the economy. So they can hand over power, they can hold a ceremony, they could declare that there's a new president, but at the end of the day, they're the most powerful institution in Egypt, and that's not going to change.
Eric, Amy here, and welcome back. Great to have you. The question I have in all of this is, where are the young people, and are they being at all represented in this election in Egypt today? Of course, when this whole revolution started, we heard so much about the Google executive, this young, urban, secular energy driving Egypt forward. Where's that gone?
Well, I think what we're learning is that that was really, in a certain sense, a myth. Actually, in this election, you do have the youth activists who participated in Tahrir Square rallying around various candidates, but none of those candidates are liberals. The two candidates who are getting the most support from the Tahrir youth would be Abdulmonem Abul Fatu, who's an Islamist. He's a former leader of the Muslim Brotherhood. He wants to establish a Sharia state in Egypt. He has very hostile views towards the United States and Israel. And the second candidate is Hamdin Sabahi, who's a Nasserist, which is to say that he supports the ideology of Gamal Abdel Nasser in all of its anti-Westernism. Just a brief example, Hamdin Sabahi is seen in a YouTube video in Baghdad praising Saddam Hussein in Saddam's palace. So the youths have really not found a liberal alternative here. They've rallied around two totally illiberal candidates, and that just suggests that they aren't liberals, that they're just people who oppose Mubarak and would almost accept any alternative to the old regime.
Hey, Eric, this is Will. I want to follow up on that exact point. So when I was reading today, I was shocked about what Amy just said, that this Google executive, Wael Ghonim, had come out and endorsed Fatu. Now, Buck did a great job of laying out who these guys are, and you just followed that up with Fatou is the Islamist candidate who's endorsed also by the Salafists, the hardcore Islamists in this race. So I've got a guy here who gets the support of the hardcore Islamists and the Google executive leader of the revolution. How am I supposed to, by the way, a guy whose greatest hits are something else? He says that killing Osama bin Laden was an act of international terrorism. How do I make sense of it? You're saying that the revolution was nonsense from the start?
Well, I'm not saying the revolution was nonsense. What I'm saying is we have to be very clear about what the revolution was about.
Right.
The way I see it, the revolution was about opposing Mubarak and dethroning Mubarak. It was not about creating a liberal democracy in Egypt. It was simply about creating an alternative to him. Wael Ghonim, what we've learned about him over the past couple of months is that, first of all, he happens to be a religious person. His wife is an American convert to Islam who wears an abaya, which is a sign of real piety in Egypt. The second thing is he founded a website called Ana Salafi, which means I am a Salafist. Now, I don't think he did that because he's a Salafist, but I think that he did it because, you know, he's not a liberal. He was probably paid to do it. But again, this is not something that a real liberal would accept money to do. What we're seeing is he's anti-regime. He supports Abdel Fattah, I think, because Abdel Fattah is the most anti-military candidate.
Buck and Derek, but did I read today that they kept the polls open an hour later than originally planned? Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
What is your sense of why? Was it, do you think, a turnout thing? There were just a lot of people? Or do you think this was an attempt to say, well, we're not getting the response we want. Let's give more people that we want to come out and vote an opportunity to. I mean, I'm trying not to be a total conspiracy theorist here, but, you know, you open the polls an hour later than you're supposed to. That's going to perk up my
Eric,
ears.
I'll let you handle conspiracy theory first, then I'll come in. It's not really a conspiracy theory. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly, you know, why they opened or closed the polls at the moment they did. But I do think that the military is committed to holding an election in which anyone who wants to vote is able to vote. It's a very important. It's very important to the legitimacy of the elections that people who stand in line for hours are actually allowed into the polling place. So I assume that's what was behind it. I wouldn't draw any major conclusion from that.
So I have to take off my tinfoil hat?
For a few minutes. It'll come back on later. Eric, I wanted to ask you this, though. Is the best outcome from the U.S. perspective right now, we have no one to root for, it seems. I think we've laid that out clearly. There's no Egyptian George Washington, if you will. But given what we're seeing right now, would a divided form of Egyptian government, would that be the best outcome in terms of U.S. interest? Or is it just because the Constitution hasn't even settled the power of the executive there, because a lot of this is campaign rhetoric from different candidates, we can't even really tell? What do you think? I mean, divided government good, or just we don't even know?
I think you hit it on the head with that latter point. The bottom line is that whoever is elected, whether it's an old regime candidate or an Islamist candidate, that president's powers have not been defined. There's no new constitution. So you'll have a president who will have some sort of public legitimacy, some sort of popular legitimacy, but he's going to have to struggle against the Islamist-dominated parliament on one hand and the military, which again holds all the weapons, 15 to 40% of the economy, and this is just going to be an ongoing political conflict. You're going to have political instability for a long time, and the problem is that's going to prevent Egypt from, first of all, restoring domestic security, which we've spoken about a lot, and the second thing is it's going to hurt Egypt's ability to get international investment. So, I mean, you're going to have really prolonged political conflict that won't end as a result of this election because the new president's powers have just not been defined.
Eric, Jedediah here. You made, in a recent column, you made a good point about the leverage that we have due to the aid that we've given. What do you think is the best way for us to execute that leverage so that we have some benefit here as to what happens?
Look, I mean, I don't think there's much we can do in terms of supporting any one candidate. If we did that and our candidate lost, that would be a terrible thing for the United States. And frankly, we just don't have that level of influence with a foreign public. What we can do is encourage the military to, at the very least, hold a credible election, because what that would do is reduce the possibility of a major uprising. I mean, regardless, whoever is elected will probably be more hostile to U.S. interests, more hostile to the peace treaty with Israel. But I think what would be even worse than that is in Egypt that's once again in uprising. So we want, at the very least in Egypt, that has some level of stability.
We may find out that just elections don't necessarily give us outcomes that we like. So I think that's very likely.
Eric Traeger, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. After the break, the Island of Misfit Stories is up next.
A stunning documentary you can't afford to miss.
We need to understand that right now we are being infiltrated. We're being, looked at like lab rats, and they're probing.
America's under attack, and the enemy isn't an ocean away.
The problem is 99% of the Americans don't know it. They don't realize it. It's not reported in the media.
It's much closer than you think.
We don't know how many people are coming into the United States, period. Much less how many of them are from the Middle East.
There's no question that if they had the opportunity to do it, they would do it.
The truth about what's really happening on our borders. The war on terror isn't over.
Any day, you could wake up to a nuclear bomb detonated in an American city.
Rumors of War 3. Target U.S. Available now on DVD. Exclusive discount for all GBTV subscribers. Visit glennbeck.com/rumorsdvd for details.
Ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wrath and Righteousness. Available now at mercuryinc.com or wherever ebooks are sold.
Well, sometimes there's just too much news for one show, so in our nightly journey to the island of misfit stories, we pack in the odd, the outrageous, and sometimes even the exceptional. So, Buck, you're exceptional, and you're up first.
Oh, well.
Take the compliment and move on.
We're doing a hard right turn. Something near and dear to my heart, the Central Intelligence Agency, my former employer, has disclosed the name of 15 of my former compatriots at the agency killed in the line of duty. They were the 15 operatives killed over the past 30 years. It was a new effort to honor fallen officers whose sacrifices often go unrecognized because of their cover situations, their status abroad. Sometimes these things can't be disclosed publicly, so people give their lives, oftentimes fighting what we now know as the war on terror, even before we knew it as that. And it's not known to the public what they did, and there's an anonymous star on the wall. I mean, I used to walk past the stars every day, constant reminder of what we were doing there. And I applaud the effort, and I think the agency is obviously doing the right thing here, and it gives, I think, added closure to the families. And, the agency doesn't talk about it a lot, but we lose people too. So there you have it. I think it was a good thing that they did, and it's just a reminder that people, the military and others, are fighting the war on terror all over the world in some scary places, and sometimes that has real consequences.
All right. Jedediah.
Yes, well, Donna Dewitt, I don't know if it's Dewitt or Dewitt, so I might be pronouncing her name wrong, but she's the outgoing president of the South Carolina AFL-CIO, and she was seen in a video bashing a piñata of South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley's face. We have a little bit of footage for that, so let's check it.
All right, you ready? Wait till her face comes around and whack her. Give her another whack. Give her another whack.
Now, can you imagine the media uproar if that was Nancy Pelosi's face that you had someone bashing? And I'm sure this would be a major story on every network. But what you may not be able to see is that the phrase, unions are not needed, wanted, or welcome in South Carolina is what appears under Nikki Haley's face in that. Now, this woman initially said she had no regrets. There was no ill intention on her part. In fact, she even throws in a little Tea Party bashing. She says, our folks don't go to speeches with guns and things like that. She had to sort of interject like that.
Just baseball bats.
Just baseball bats hitting at piñatas with people's faces on it.
Strange.
But ultimately, there was a statement released by Allison Owens, Director of Media Outreach for AFL-CIO, and they basically said this is not behavior that we endorse. This is not, there's plenty to talk about in Governor Haley's awful record. We do not believe that's an appropriate joke.
I mean, honestly, watching that video, you see like what a short leap it is from hitting a piñata to hitting a person. I found that really disturbing.
Yeah, it's disturbing imagery with the photo there and how the crowd seem to find it funny. And I mean, you know, I'm someone who does find crazy things funny, but that's not funny. That's just strange and...
Effigies usually are not funny.
Yeah.
No.
Usually
Well, to
pretty
some they are, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, but putting the EPA together with the NASCAR, is there any humor in that?
I cannot tell you how disappointed I am. The EPA has signed a deal with my beloved NASCAR to promote recycling and environmentally friendly products to the sport's millions of fans. Ugh. NASCAR will encourage fans to buy sustainable concessions at races.
What's that?
Who knows? A recycled beer? I don't know.
A hot dog?
That's what you do at NASCAR races.
Sustainable?
Certainly hot dog.
Part of the circle of life, right?
Safer chemical products, conserve water, reduce waste, promote recycling. I might throw up. It's just sad, and especially because right now there are some people in Congress, I don't know if you're aware of this, who are talking about banning military sponsorship at NASCAR races. Which, if you follow NASCAR at all, you know that is a huge part of the culture and the sport reciprocally. So if we're taking politics out of NASCAR, that's fine. This is directly inserting it back in with this kind of politicization.
So why is NASCAR letting itself be wussified like this?
I cannot tell you. I'm, you know, I work with NASCAR a lot, and I'm going to be making some calls in to ask that question. Not as a fan, but as a reporter who writes about NASCAR a lot. I want to know what the rationale here is, because usually they have very good reasons for either addressing politics or staying out of politics, and they walk that fine line a lot. They're very careful. So I'd like to hear their side of this, but this seems completely inaccurate.
What's next? Ethanol in the tank? I mean, come on.
Well,
They've already done that.
So,
there we go.
Who knows? Right. I'll look into it, though.
So, Will Kane, what do you have for us?
Turns out people can't spell. A
Speak
study.
for yourself.
Well,
okay, hold on. I want you to pronounce the name B-E-N.
Ben.
Very good. This is a joke we had last week.
I get it, but you're making fun of my pronunciation, and I'm making fun of your spelling. So, yours and 2,000
no, my
Britons.
Perfect.
2,000. Go with it. 2,000 Britons here who can't spell, and apparently at least 25 New Yorkers who are also administered this test who could not spell words like definitely or separate.
I can do that.
2/3 of these poll takers couldn't spell the word necessary, and hundreds couldn't use their, its
that drives me
correctly
crazy.
in a sentence.
I can do
now,
all of that.
We are blaming, apparently.
I think it's the gold star.
I'm tired of hearing I can do that over here in my ear. It's just like,
and anything you can do, she can do better.
That's Nike commercial here. Gatorade, something. Anyways, the long and short of it is people are blaming technology. They're blaming autocorrect. They're blaming spell check.
Yeah.
They're blaming that for the fact they don't know that I before E except after C when sounded by A, like is in neighbor or way. They're not learning their lessons.
Couldn't spell either before iPhones. There's no way.
I take contrarian position on this,
buck
with this. Who cares if you can't spell? It's an obsolete skill. These days, people type, they don't write. Technology's there for you.
Disagree.
Yeah, can you go out into the woods and tell me which food?
When you get invited to a nice dinner party, don't you do a handwritten note, okay? I know you do.
Let me make my point. As our producer, Nick Rizzuto, said, can you go into the woods and tell me which foods are poisonous or toxic and which you can eat?
Actually,
she might be able to do
that.
Despite the cavalcade of I cans in the segment, I think you cannot, ma'am. And I would say that's an obsolete skill as well, like spelling will be in the future.
Woman, let me say, it is a huge turnoff when a guy sends an email or a tweet or a text and there are misspelled words.
But tweets should be misspelled, right? Because you're trying to conserve. So the contraction, it's, for example.
Misspelling,
right.
like
I'm just saying.
That's okay.
I don't want people
I'm not
seeing
saying you can't judge people.
I do.
Doesn't that drive you crazy?
Your, that's the worst.
Oh, that
your
drives me crazy.
is the worst for me.
There. Just use your logic.
I believe I've gotten many
right
dates because of my spelling. Amy.
I believe you have.
Because I wanted to correct
my spelling's quite good. No,
because they challenge everybody in spelling bee. Now.
Oh, I will throw down right now.
All right, viewers, send in your most challenging words, and we will try to spell them tomorrow. That's it for us tonight, but we'll see you right back here tomorrow night with more real news and some spelling, I hope. Good night.